Hi, everybody. This is Layla from Women on the Road. If there's anybody out there, let me know because I can't see who's out there and who isn't. But I have received your questions. I'm really grateful for that. I've received a few online and I've received a few via email in answer to my newsletter request a few days ago. Hi, Jordan. I did get your question. Thank you so much. Um, Wonderful. So today we're going to be talking about solo travel. This is the first time I do this kind of Q&A. I think this is a week of first. I did my first Facebook Live a few days ago when I took my phone down to the local village market in my tiny little village in rural France. Now I am still in tiny rural France, so internet is iffy. We're going to give this a try. I'm not 100% certain it's all going to come together, but let's see. So I did that first Facebook Live, and this is the first time I actually sit down and do a Q&A. So this is fun. I'm really looking forward to it. The topic is really broad. It's solo female travel. Hi, June. Hi, Allie. Solo female travel, any questions you want to throw at me? So in the meantime, just to get things started, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the highs and the lows of solo travel and why it is that I like traveling this way so much. It's not that I'm antisocial and that I don't want to travel with friends and family. I do that all the time too. But I love solo travel because it really forces me to get out of my shell. And I know it may not seem that way, but I'm actually very shy, and given an opportunity not to go out there and meet people, I will sit in my corner with a book. I'm very happy just ignoring the world and sitting by myself. So this really forces me. When I'm traveling by myself, I don't have a choice. If I want to do anything at all, I have to interact with people. So I find that it pushes my boundaries, and that's a really good thing. And I think as we get older, we need those boundaries to be pushed even more. It's very easy to become complacent. I also like the idea of doing what I want. I'm an independent person, and I don't necessarily think that I should have to negotiate all morning to decide what to do in the afternoon. So with solo travel, I'm on my own. I make my own decisions. I make my own mistakes, and I have absolutely nobody to blame. So when things go wrong, it's me. It's my fault, and that's fine. I can cope with that. I also think that when you're traveling solo, you're more approachable. If you're traveling in a couple, just think about it. When you're traveling, sometimes you see couples, and are you really going to break them up with your conversation? It's rare that you're going to say, "Excuse me, can I just stop you from talking for a second so that I can say something?" It's not. Sure, it happens, but it doesn't happen often. But if you're by yourself, people will approach you more easily. And if you see somebody who's on their own, you're probably going to approach them more easily too. And I find that when I travel alone, I meet local people all the time. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. And that's what I like the most about traveling. Now, there's some downsides to traveling solo too. If you've got a big bag or a backpack or a suitcase, try going to the bathroom. That's a downside. Who's going to watch it for you? So you really have to hunt around for someone trustworthy who's going to take care of your bag for you while you escape to the loo for 5 seconds. It can also get lonely. It can. It doesn't usually last very long, but it can get lonely. So, it's not perfect. No way of travel is perfect. I prefer to travel on my own. It doesn't mean that everybody should. But I think it's a great way to see the world. It's a good way to discover other people and other places. And I think I'll keep doing it. Hi, Joy, welcome. So, any questions that you'd like to throw at me before I go down my list? Maybe I'll just jump into Jordan's right away, because I know that she's in a small town someplace, I think possibly in Spain, where she's worried about Wi-Fi. And Jordan wanted to know a little bit about volunteering and about how to become a disaster relief volunteer and how I ended up doing the kind of work I do. Now, Jordan, I'm not that kind of an aid worker at all. I do work for the United Nations, but I work as a writer. So I don't go out there and dig trenches or anything like that. No, I don't do that. So I can't really tell you how you would be able to get that kind of work, but I do know that there are tons of organizations out there, and I was doing a little bit of research just before this Facebook Live because I knew that you had that you were curious about this. So I have found a few organizations that look like they can actually help guide you in the right direction, because humanitarian relief it's a very specific field, and it can be complex in terms of whether you're going to do more harm than good. I mean, do people actually need you on the ground when they've got a humanitarian crisis? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. So it's important to pick the right place. So what I'm going to do is, when this Facebook Live is finished, in the comments below, I'm going to put in some resources. So if there are questions that you all are asking me that I can't answer, I do promise that I will do the research and I will add the questions below. So Jordan, that's a sort of a half answer to your question. Please feel free to go on further and ask more. And if I can answer, I will. And if not, I'll look it up for you. Hi, Diane. So now I have a few questions that came in via email, and yeah, I love this one from Nina in California. Is how do I eat out alone? Well, anyone who knows me knows that eating is never a problem. So, you know, I will fight wars to go and have a good meal. Eating out alone can be daunting depending on where you go. I mean, think snooty French restaurant with a big bell over your meal, starched waiters. That can be a little bit scary to eat out by yourself. I do it, and I have done it. And the worst thing is I don't drink, which means that all of that pomp and circumstance is wasted on me. So I really am the person they want to put behind the potted palm, although I don't let them. I'm always asking to be put front and center when I go into a restaurant on my own. I just want to be proud of it, and I want to own it. So eating alone, I do have a few tricks that, you know, there are a few things that you can do in case you feel really nervous about it. The first thing to do is go during family time. Don't go late at night when it's mostly couples, you know, or people who are, you know, really into their 6-course meal. Go at lunchtime or go earlier in the evening when people are eating with their families. That's always a good thing. Another thing is to maybe go to a place where you can eat outside, like a cafe, something like that, or scope the place out first. Go look at the menu. In many parts of the world, you'll find menus are posted outside restaurants, so go look at them, look at the price, so you don't have that, oh my God, when the bill comes and feel kind of silly. No. Do your preparatory work and find a place that looks like it's actually going to be happy that you're sitting there by yourself. So I hope I've answered that question. Hi, Kathleen. Now I have a question. This one was anonymous. The person didn't sign their question, but she was asking, when are you too old to travel solo? I don't think you're ever too old to travel solo. I think as long as you're healthy and you can travel on your own, and you know, there's nothing impeding you from traveling, you can travel solo. It's no different than traveling with a group or traveling with family or traveling anyplace else. I think that maybe as one gets older, the kinds of trips might change a little bit and the kinds of places you might go to. I mean, maybe you won't be as active as you were in your 20s, so those mountain climbing trips might be fewer. I don't know. But bottom line is there is no such thing as age. I mean, I am proudly 65 3/4 and 65 1/2, excuse me. I just threw some months onto myself that I don't have. And I travel exactly the same way now as I used to travel in my 20s. There's absolutely no difference. I go to the same kinds of places. In fact, I probably go to places that are less ideal than I did in my 20s when I was a lot more scared. I think one of the things about traveling on your own when you're older is that risk factor gets a little bit, it sort of disappears a bit, and you have some common sense. You have a little more common sense. You've got the knowledge, the know-how, the instincts. Things don't put you off as much. You don't care so much what people think. So I think that as you grow older, it's probably even safer. You probably cope with traveling on your own even better. Oh, hello, Zen. I have 6 cats, so they do tend to like computers, and maybe you're not going to sit on the keyboard just yet. So, Nina, I hope that answered, I mean, sorry, Anonymous, I hope that answered your question. What else have I got? Are there, oh, hello from Melbourne. Oh my goodness, that is really quite amazing. I think it's very early in the morning. And hi from Ohio. Kelly, here's a question. Okay, as a younger woman, I traveled by myself all over Asia, Australia, Southeast Asia, Southeast Asia. Now, as a 61-year-old, I would love to travel again, but I'm hesitant as an older woman now on my own. Love hearing your thoughts on how to overcome these fears. Yeah, I mean, it depends why you're afraid, because if you have a physical reason for being concerned about traveling on your own, then yes, I think it's important to prepare for it and to put in the mechanisms that are going to help you cope with it. If it's that you're out of practice, maybe what you can do is you can start small. Start at home. Start, traveling near where you live. Take baby steps. If that's what it is, if it's fear that concerns you, then I would think that if you took it easy and built up to it gradually, maybe 3 months in Bolivia right away is not the ideal trip, but maybe what you can do is take a 1-week trip or even a weekend trip close to home and see how that goes, and then expand it a little bit, go a little bit further for a little bit longer and get used to it. There's nothing that says that you have to do everything immediately overnight. So places like Southeast Asia, for example, are so easy to travel in, and people are friendly, things work, they're geared to tourists. So I think choosing the right place is also going to be something that's going to be helpful. Oh, hello from Perth. Aloha from Hawaii, from Chicago, from New Zealand. Hello, Jamila. Icy Minnesota. Oh my goodness. So yes, Kelly, common sense and listening to instincts does come with age. Exactly. You're absolutely right. Pamela, baby steps. Absolutely. So I can't believe all the people who are awake at the strangest hours. My hat is off to you. I really, really thought that we would be a small European group sort of preparing for bedtime and a few North Americans who are, sneaking off a couple of hours to tune in. So that's great. That's a lovely surprise. I'm so excited to be connected with people all over the world. So I'll continue with some of these questions. So Phoebe from Australia, she says, I would like to travel for a month or two, not for a week or two. How can I do that? Yeah. Look at your bank account and you'll see right away that it's not the same planning process at all. If I'm going to travel for the long term, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm either going to backpack cheaply, and I've been known to do that. I've been known to do that for several years, in fact, not just for 2 months. Or I'm going to house sit. And I think that house sitting is one of those things that it's the quintessential travel experience, although it may sound counterintuitive because you're not traveling as much, you're actually in one place. But what is travel if it's not discovering a new culture, a new way of life? That's what travel is about. So if you're house sitting, what you're doing is giving yourself the chance to actually discover a place in depth in a way that you could never get to know it if you were just coming through for a few days or a week or something like that. So if you're going to travel for a month or two, I would recommend that you try house sitting, maybe 2 months in one place and really become a native, or maybe split it up between 2 places and house sit in one place for 1 month and in another place for another month, and get to discover what local life is really like. I thoroughly enjoy doing that. I love plunking myself in a city I don't know and starting from scratch, not knowing anything. I mean, just going to the grocery store and staring in despair at what it is that I'm going to have for supper because I have no clue what all this stuff is and I can't even read the writing. But I think that's fun. I think that's part of the travel, and I think it's part of the discovery. And the other way, of course, is by going off and doing it on the cheap. You can still travel cheaply. people who think that just because you're in your 60s or your 50s or whatever, you can't stay in cheap hostels have it all wrong. I sleep more soundly now than I did in my 20s, so I can sleep in a dorm, and no matter of, partying 20-year-olds can run in, make noise, turn the lights on, and nothing's going to happen to me. But nowadays in hostels, you can also get a private room that's not too expensive. So that's another way of doing it. Or choose your country that's going to be cheap. There are a lot of cheaper countries, and you can manage to travel in some countries for a month for what you pay in some countries for about a week. So I'm just going to check to see if there are any other questions here. I'm curious about your occupation. How do you get all these great travel gigs? Oh, well, Allison, I don't actually get a whole bunch of great travel gigs. What happens is that I work as a writer. That's my primary profession. I used to be a journalist before, and I also worked at the United Nations for a while. So that's when I retired from the UN about 3 years ago. I tried to find contracts where I would be able to stay on as a consultant and as a writer. So what happens is that I get assignments that send me to different countries to do some writing assignments, and I piggyback on those to do travel for Women on the Road, and to bring you the stories that I bring you when I travel. And the rest of the time, I'm afraid I bite the bullet and I just pay for it. I know there's a lot of sponsored travel and tourist offices that pay for travel and things like that, and I think that's great, but I don't have a clue. And I think I've been on 2 sponsored trips in my entire life. One was to Borneo, which was one of the best trips I've ever had, and the other one was to northern Spain. Maybe a third one, but that's it. So I pay for it. And then I write about it, and I hope people like it. And then I go work for the United Nations and get paid so that I can then get on the plane and travel again. That's more or less how I do it. Ria asks if I use hostels. Yes, I do. In fact, Ria, I will write this down because I will post a link as soon as we're finished. I just wrote a page on how to use hostels if you're not 20-something anymore. So a sort of grown-up guide to using hostels. So yes, I do use them. I also use luxury hotels, by the way. So I run the gamut. It depends on how much money I happen to have at any given month, and it fluctuates wildly. Sometimes I will stay in a hostel. Sometimes I'll stay with people. I couch surf. Hi, Faith. Great to see you. I stay with people's friends of friends of friends, and don't hesitate to ask your friends if they know anyone in so-and-so a country. I once stayed in a Kenyan village with the cousin of a cousin of the waiter in an Indian restaurant by a lakeside town in Switzerland. So you just don't know who you're going to meet and who's going to be able to connect you with somebody else. So Rhea, how do you find house sitting gigs? Okay, I'm going to post that as well. I have a page on house sitting and how you find those. There are agencies. There are some really trusted agencies, and there are some less good ones. So you have to be a little bit cautious about who you go with. But there are agencies that pair you up with people who have houses that they would like to have watched. And in fact, what's going to happen a few years from now, not quite yet, but in a few years, I am going to be looking for a house sitter, because my house right now is a bit of a shambles. I'm renovating an old farmhouse in eastern France, and it's not what you would call habitable, not unless you think that living with all sorts of construction materials around you is something you've always wanted to do. So when the house is actually finished, then I too will be looking for house sitters so that I can go off and not worry about what's going to be happening while I'm away. So yes, I will post that as well. So Rini, Rini says, I'm shocked you don't have a French accent. I know, I am French. It's just one of those things. I was born in France. My mother was French. My father was Turkish. I grew up in Spain, but I think I'm a mimic. I have I have an ear for languages, so I don't have an accent in French, I don't have an accent in Spanish, I don't have an accent in English. And this accent comes from living in Canada for a number of years. I also have a Canadian passport now, so I'm also Canadian and French, and that's why I don't have a French accent. Oh, Debbie says, I'm so inspiring. She's a 46-year-old solo traveler, so you really appreciate the information. I'm so glad. Thank you, thank you. Oh, Joanna from Canberra, my goodness, Australia is awake and kicking. That is one of my big regrets, is not having been to Australia yet. That is the one big trip, and New Zealand, that I want to take. However, I was in Darwin for all of 45 minutes recently, but I asked about that, and I don't think I'm allowed to scratch it off my scratch map just because I went to the airport. I don't think that really counts, does it? Maybe? No? No, I don't think so. Okay, a couple of other questions I have here. I have a question from Nilda in Puerto Rico. She says, I'm going to Asia. I speak Spanish and I speak English, but I don't speak local languages. What do I do? Should I be worried? No, you should not be worried. Once upon a time, we had these things called little phrase books, or dictionaries even before phrase books. So we used to carry those around when we traveled some decades ago and just leaf through those and be able to talk to people anywhere about anything. And then we moved into the era of technology, and now we have apps. And Google Translate is one of them. There's a couple of others. I've tried a few. I can't tell you off the top of my head which ones, but the Google Translate one allows you to do two things, and that's the cool thing. Number one, it allows you to type what you're going to say, and then it translates it in writing. So you just show your cell phone to somebody, they read it, they type back, and then you read what they've typed. Then there's another one that actually allows you to talk into it, and then the person hears what you said in their language. That's really actually quite funny. You have a conversation with people, an actual oral conversation. I love that. I absolutely love that. That's even more fun. This one I had experience of. I think I was in Moldova recently, where I was in a taxi and the taxi driver spoke Romanian and Russian, and that was absolutely it. And there was no way I was able to communicate with him about where I was going, what I wanted, nothing, zero. So I got my little phone out, I got my Google Translate app, and I started talking into it, handed him the phone. He got so excited. He spent the entire taxi ride turning around, looking at me and holding the phone and waving it in the air, which is not the way you want to ride a taxi. But anyways, just to say that this is what you want to do. You want to use one of those. It's very useful, and it allows you to actually connect with people and to have a conversation. Rini loves my site. Thank you so much. So Debbie D says, have you ever used www Workaway? I love it, and I can still do my work online while volunteering. Absolutely, yes. And it's funny that you asked that, because I'm just going to write it down. I'm right in the middle of completely updating and overhauling my volunteering section. I had a lot of volunteering pages on my site, and they were all written maybe 10 years ago. My site is more than 12 years old, so I haven't gotten around to updating everything. And so I finally decided that I was going to bite the bullet and update this. So now I'm doing that. And pretty soon I will have a mega post between 3,000 and 4,000 words about volunteering and about resources and where to go and what you can do to volunteer, different kinds of volunteering. So just wait for it. Jordan, this might be of use to you too. Allison says, I need to go there. Australia is wonderful. Absolutely. And Joanna says, I'm 70 and contemplating a road trip around Australia. Oh, okay, I'm getting jealous. You need to stop that. Pamela Blake says, I'm in Dublin, Ohio. Hi there. And Debbie says, you can download a language and use it offline. Absolutely, absolutely. There is another thing now, it just made me think of something. When you're traveling, there's, you know how it's sometimes difficult to have access to Wi-Fi and to use your Google Maps. I know that you can download Google Maps but I've often found them a little cumbersome. I just discovered this thing called map.me. So if you're not using Google Maps, try map.me. You don't need Wi-Fi, and it's the same system. You download it, and then it's on your phone, and you can just use that to walk around the city, and it doesn't drain your battery at all. So that's fantastic. Jillian, do you have a SIM card in each country you travel in? Yes, guilty as charged. I do. The first thing I do when I land at the airport is look for a place to buy a SIM card, because what people say is you can get one downtown, and my experience has been that yes, you can get one downtown, but airports know what a data SIM is as opposed to a phone SIM, because I have my iPhone, and that is my one big item that I carry with me everywhere. But I don't like changing the SIM card in my phone. So I have this little thing called a MiFi. It's a little box that you open up and you stick a SIM card into it. So it's sort of like a mobile Wi-Fi. And I just stick that into my pocket and I walk around with it. And then I can use my phone as a sort of, hotspot, and I use my phone in conjunction with the MiFi, and I can go anywhere with it. And I still have my SIM card in my phone, although, of course, I don't answer any calls, so certainly don't want to be paying those charges. But I'd rather do that than open my phone every time and change the SIM. So yes, I absolutely buy a new SIM card, but I don't put it into my phone. I put it into my MiFi. So Jordan, Wi-Fi on and on. I'm sorry. So you're in Oaxaca in Mexico. As usual, I agree with most of what you're saying. That's exactly what I want to hear. Did you say you were posting suggestions? Yes, Jordan, I will. I will make sure that I give you some resources at the end of this broadcast. I will put some stuff into the comments for all of you. Some things about volunteering, about house sitting, and about hostels is what I have so far. Do I have any more questions? Yes, I have one more question from Clarissa in Baltimore, who is concerned about staying safe when she travels. Oh, that one requires a drink of water. Well, Clarissa, how do you stay safe? Well, you stay safe in the same way that you stay safe when you're close to home. You keep your wits around you, you're careful, you plan things logically, and you don't take too many risks. It doesn't really change just because you're in another country. The process of staying safe is the same. Now, because you're in a foreign environment, sometimes you do have to take a few extra precautions. For example, research. I mean, one of the things I love to do is I love to research a country as much as I can before I go, because in my own country, I know the lay of the land. I know how people are going to react to certain things. I know the danger signs. In another country, I might not. So I think it's a good idea to try and understand the country a little bit better. So that's the first thing that I would do. I would also check this little app called, I'm really into apps these days, this little app called GeoSure. I've written about it on my site as well, and I'll post something on it. It's free. And what it does is it gives you a rating, a safety rating for a place by taking into account a lot of different factors. And the developer is a friend of mine, and he's a real numbers nerd and statistician, and he's got this down to a fine art. So it's definitely worth looking into that. And also obviously looking into what the various countries say about safety in your destination. I would take those with a grain of salt, though, because there are some countries who are quite alarmist. And, if there's a traffic accident on one street, they'll say, don't go to the country, people can't drive. So do take it with a grain of salt, and realize that what you have to look for are sort of trends. If something happens over and over and over again, then that's something that you should be careful of. Or if major issues happen, then you should be careful of those as well. Otherwise, the usual, don't look rich. Don't run around with gold jewelry all over you, or your bag slung over your shoulder half open. Use a crossbody bag, an anti-theft bag. I have a pack safe. I use those all the time. I have 3 pack safes. I know, disclosure. at least your stuff is close to you and it's really hard to get off you. And when thieves are looking for something to steal, they're looking for low-hanging fruit. They're looking for things that are easy. So you're going to make it as hard as you can for them. I also use a money belt, and that's where I keep the bigger stash. I keep my passport, my ticket, my vaccination certificate, credit cards, and extra cash. And I keep the bulk of my in a money belt, although I'll put in my purse what I'm going to need for that day, because of course you don't want to be digging through your money belt to get your coffee money out. That could be a little embarrassing. So the purse is good, and that's where you should be holding your money for the day. But otherwise, staying safe. Look around, don't go out at night too much, or if you are, make sure that you're going with people that you feel you can trust. If you just meet somebody and they invite you over, maybe nighttime is not the time that you should be accepting that invitation. Maybe lunchtime, go out to a public place. You know, the kinds of things you would do at home. It really isn't any different. And there's a lot of fear-mongering about how unsafe it is to go somewhere, or places that are unsafe. Yeah, there are some places that right now I would not recommend that you go as a tourist. Yemen, Afghanistan, places like that, absolutely. But there are plenty of other places that sound like they might be scary, but that aren't at all. And that with a tiny little bit of caution, you should be able to be absolutely fine and relax. So I'm going to see if there are other questions. Hello, Jamie from Australia. Judy, please. Oh, you don't drink too much. Exactly. That is a good way to stay out of danger's way. Now, I don't drink at all, so I'm good with that. Take a good medical kit. Absolutely. Stay smart. Love the live videos. Thank you, Judy. It would be nice to see pics of the must-haves when traveling solo. Now, that's interesting. Must-haves. Okay, I'll give that some thought. And what I'm hoping to do is in a few days, maybe next week, I'm going to do a couple of other Facebook Lives. I want to do one from my local French bakery. I mean, you know, the French pâtisserie, but it's a tiny little village one. It's not one of these sophisticated Parisian ones with all the curly cues and all the wonderful French pastries. This is more a country one. Lots of cream, lots of different breads, especially very big, huge, round loaves of bread. But I think I should take you down and show you that. And then there's a couple of local, there's our local chocolate maker here, and she makes all her little chocolates by hand, and she's a former nurse, and the people you find in villages who have recycled their lives and who do new things are fantastic. So yes, I will absolutely take you to see the local chocolate maker. Her name is Clarisse. So we'll go see her one of these days. And then, excuse me, I'd also like to do more of these Q&As if I get the hang of it. This could be fun. If you enjoyed this, then I would love to know, because this will tell me whether I should keep going or not. I believe from everything I've read that somewhere on this screen, either right now or later, there should be a button that says either follow or let me know when Layla goes live again, something like that. I don't know, because I've never done it myself. But if you click that button that is supposed to be somewhere, then you will be notified whenever I go live. I'll try not to abuse, but I will also try to go live from Malawi in a couple of weeks from now when I get there, if I somehow miraculously do find Wi-Fi, because I just found out that I will not be in the capital, but I'll be in a village somewhere in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know if there's going to be Wi-Fi. Don't know, but we will try, and if there is, I'll definitely do it. And then I thought I would also continue with these little slices of life in rural France. So it's up to you. You tell me what you want, and I will do my very best to deliver. Hi, Maura. Hi. So yes, bakery. Yes, absolutely. Yummy. Yeah, that sounds like chocolate. Oh, flowers and chocolate. I don't think we have any local flower sellers, but I tell you what, in the spring when the flowers in my garden come out, how about that? I'll give you my own flowers. And now you're making me hungry. Yes, I know, talking about chocolate does that. And thank you for enjoying this. Some people are saying it was great to see me live. I don't know, but if you say so, I will believe you. So yes, there's a following button, I'm told. Fantastic. Have you ever given tours yourself? No, not in a lifetime. I wouldn't dream of it. I really like traveling on my own. I think that traveling with one other person is about as far as I can stretch it. I don't have the patience. And Jordan says she lived next to a woman from Malawi. Well, maybe your neighbor can tell me what to do while I'm down there. And Kelly says she enjoyed this very much. So thank you. Yes, I will do more. And I look forward to talking to you again. Also, I hope this time works well for me. I'm going to try and vary the times a little bit because I know that I have wonderful readers all over the world, and it's hard to find a time where everyone's going to be awake. So it seems like this time I've got all sorts of listeners from the US, from Europe, and from Australia. So it looks like I'm hitting a big part of the world. Although when I take you to my bakery, it's not going to be at this hour. It's going to be during the day when the bakery is open. Don't worry about that. So that's it, everybody. Thank you so much. And I will post resources at the bottom here. So come back and check. I can't guarantee I'll do it in the next 5 minutes, but I'll do it as soon as I can. And I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Bye-bye.